Hi, welcome back, everybody.
I'm Bryn.
And I'm Heather.
And this is our wonderful guest, Claudia.
Hello.
She is amazing. So we are definitely inspired by her. Her friends, Amber and Claudia, they started a podcast. And they just kind of started over coffee. And this totally reminded me of Heather and I meeting for coffee. We'd be discussing our plans, how we were going to do things differently. And all of a sudden, we're like, we need to record this. So it definitely resonated with me that that's how you started. And just... you're an inspiration to someone that's broken out of the box, and we're so excited.
Yep, and I think you're a perfect role model for an out-of-the-box, a pharmacist out of the box. And I have to personally say that you're like a lamppost for me. I think there's people in my life that I see as a lamppost, and I don't think you even realize that.
That's so sweet.
But when I reached out to Claudia during a time when I was really kind of wrestling with making a shift in my life, and you were so gracious, and you met me for lunch, and we just sat around and chatted. But I swear, you were like, I was on this path that was kind of dark, and I just wasn't sure it felt right, but I just didn't know. And you were like that lamppost that said, really yes, you're on the right path. So it gives me the chills.
Wow,
but you really made an impact on me and said, yes, I can do this. And so I really appreciate it. And I think she has an amazing story for her career and what she did. I'll tell you a little bit about her because we love to give people background. So she graduated from UF in 2003, and she did a residency. So she's kind of ambulatory care trained. She's also done retail pharmacy. She's also done hospital pharmacy, kind of done the gamut of things. But lately is doing something really interesting. I'll let her share that with you because that is one of the exciting pieces of her. But she really enjoys lots of things, and I don't want to spoil anything. I think I'll just kind of stop there and let you kind of share more about your path. So tell us more about your path.
Yeah, and thinking back on the journey, it seems like, wow, it's just there's so much. There's so much.
We've actually talked about that. Like, you might have to be a guest that we bring back.
Like the sequel.
Yes.
The sequel.
Part two.
First, let me just say that being called a lamppost is nothing I would have ever imagined being called, but it's like the best thing ever. Aww. I mean, to be known as a source of anything, of goodness in any way, light definitely being one of those is just super powerful. So I really appreciate that. And I love that you guys are moving forward with sharing your own story, sharing insights from the people that you interview, because I think that passing the mic on to others and having these conversations is so powerful. And people may think about doing it, want to do it, but they don't take the plunge, and they don't realize that this can impact so many people. This isn't about us. This is about who might hear this and say,
exactly,
oh, I can do this. So
change the profession.
Yes.
Right. Well, and that's what I feel like. I feel like we kind of, as pharmacists, we talk and we have thoughts of how things can be better, and we chat amongst ourselves about what's going on, and like, oh, I wish they did that. Like, but we're not the kind of people usually to put it out there. And that's why we liked calling ourselves Pharmacists Out of the Box, because both Bryn and I are like, let's just talk about this. Let's talk about this stuff.
Open it up.
Yeah.
And just kind of free your mind. Like, I love the names of your podcast. Like, it's just like, think differently.
Yeah, I can't emphasize that enough. And yeah, we are either criticizers or producers, right? We either spend our time criticizing and complaining, or we say, okay, we have recognized an area that needs to be fixed, and then we fix it. So we can't spend energy in both. Right. So yeah, my story. I graduated from here in University of Florida with my PharmD in 2003, and then I did a residency. So from 2003 to 2004, did that in Orlando in ambulatory care. And so primary care has been pretty much my staple. So I did mostly anticoagulation clinics, mostly primary care environments. We moved cross country 4 times because of my husband's medical career. So 4 state licenses, and I'm like, are we done with this yet?
Of boards.
Lots of boards, lots of pharmacy law tests. Don't ask me any of them. I don't know anything anymore. No, I'm kidding. Some of it's the same, but there are like nuances in each state, So depending on the state that we lived in, kind of depended on, what area we were living in, what was available in that area for me to work in. So I had a variety of experiences. Sometimes it was in primary care clinics, not necessarily anticoag focused. Sometimes it was in a very traditional anticoag clinic. My first job was at Kaiser Permanente out in California in a, huge, I think that actually at that time was the largest anticoag clinic in the nation. Wow. Pages of INR, literally just printing pages of INRs. So massive scale of that. So, just a variety of experiences. I managed a retail pharmacy at one point in Washington State, and it just depended where we were and what was available. I kind of always worked my way into a clinical environment at some point, like even if it was retail, it was retail like in a clinic, in space in a clinic. So I did that for, a while, and a decade or so. It was about 4 years ago that I started making the mental shift of like, I don't know that this is what I want to do forever. I think that I had that feeling many times throughout the process. It wasn't the theory of pharmacy. It wasn't what I was doing. It was the brokenness of the system, and it was me not being fulfilled, and me knowing that I could do more, me wanting to be outside of the box, and a lot of times I was the one rocking the boat. Like if they called me into a meeting, they were sorry they called me into a meeting afterwards. Like, why don't you just be quiet? Well, if you're going to call me into a meeting, I'm going to say what I think, And if we're here for patient care, I'm not going to be politically correct. It's going to be what's best for the patient. So most of the time I found myself rocking the boat, making people upset, because I spoke up too much, and, seeing inefficiencies in a system and trying to fix them. That was always my experience. I'm always, trying to innovate, trying to make things better, and that wasn't. People just kind of wanted you to be quiet and do your job, and that just wasn't me. So I had some struggles, just not feeling like this was the best fit for me. So I did job hopping a lot, not just because of the geographical moves, but even within one city, I would say, okay, this one's not a fit for me. Let's see if this one's a fit for me. And really, the common denominator was me, and it took me a while to figure that out. So the sooner people figure that out, the better. So hopefully, somebody's watching who is figuring that out a lot sooner.
Well, and I think, to pause there for a sec, I mean, sometimes we get worried about trying something and it not working and hopping. Like we kind of talked about that in one of our podcasts, like when you've got so many different opportunities, or maybe you're not happy, is it okay to hop around? And I think it is, to try something and say, okay, that didn't work. So I think we need to be more open with ourselves and more forgiving and say, okay, well, then if it doesn't work, move to the next thing.
Yes,
it's okay.
right.
It's okay.
We're just in a different era now from, our parents' generation, where it was like, the 30-year.
Retired.
Yeah, it's just, where you had the pensions and you had this and that and the security, and it's a different time. And it's also a different time in that we do have so many options. And so why would we limit ourselves, I never worried about, what's the next employer going to think about the fact that this job was 4 years and this job was 3 years, and because I am going to be real no matter what. This is why this wasn't a fit for me, and here are the skills that I'm bringing to the table.
Exactly, and I think that's part of it. Maybe not always blaming the place where you are. Maybe it's not that the place is bad. It's just maybe you weren't the right person for that place.
For sure.
Yeah, and maybe it's not the right place for you. It's not,
For sure. And I think that, you don't just have compassion with yourself, that it's okay. And if you're not feeling good, you have to feel good, because this is a place you're spending, if you're in a workplace, you're spending so much of your day there, and it is impacting you in so many facets of your life. The way that you're showing up for your family, the way you're coming home and eating dinner with your family, the way you're acting on the weekends, because now you're stressing about the Monday coming, all of it. So
absolutely.
So I started having just a little bit of a twinge of, okay, I think it's time for me to actually do something with the fact that I now I've now identified that it's me. It's me, not you. And so I at some level, I don't know that it was super consciously, but on a level, I knew that part of my transition needed to involve getting around a different set of people. Okay. So I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. Nobody around me, friend-wise or family-wise, would have been able to have any impact on me in that way. There's no, I wasn't the kid selling candy at school, like all these amazing stories. Oh, I was an entrepreneur forever. I didn't have a lemonade stand. There was no like cute story happening. I just knew that I needed to get around people who had a different mindset like that, so that I could learn, because I was very aware, even if it wasn't consciously, I knew on some level that was going to have the biggest impact, because I could do anything, everything I wanted to, on my own in the few hours that I had free, but I really needed to surround myself with people who could
energize.
Just the energy of a room. So I was living in Washington State at that time, knowing that I needed to get around other people. Didn't know, I don't know where to go. There's no manual for this. Like, okay, page 36 of not enjoying your job. I mean, no, like there's no manual. So I was like, all right, we have Google. I mean, thank God we live in an era with all these things, right? You have
people to learn from,
resources at your fingertips. So Google entrepreneur meetings. I'm at the border of pretty much the border of Canada at the time. So I can either go to, I was in a small town, so either Vancouver or Seattle. So I'm like, all right, Google vicinity, where we at, meetup groups. The Vancouver Entrepreneurs Group was literally, as I was Googling it, just launching the next month. So I'm like, all right. all right, universe, I'm going to Vancouver. So and it was like, I don't know, I had $20 or something to go, which I thought was very
what a
reasonable.
deal.
I mean, obviously it was me finding childcare, and it was other obstacles that honestly could have made that not possible for me, or me telling myself the story that it wasn't possible. So, I've got to find somebody to watch my son. I'm going to be out late. I'm going to be in another country. What if my car breaks down? So many reasons I could have said, that makes no logical sense. Why would I do that? But I did it anyways.
Because you're out of the box.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, let's go. So I drove up to Vancouver for the launch of this meeting, and, I don't know, I'm walking into a room of all Canadians. I mean, I'm the only American there. So, I walk in, don't know what is going on. I don't know. I knew the guy who was speaking, but I didn't know him. I mean, I knew his name, and I had looked him up a little bit. He was a well-known serial entrepreneur, and okay, I mean, I can learn something. We can learn something from anyone.
Yes.
So it's not like I'm going to walk away with nothing, right? So I just went in there with an open mind, and he went through this whole talk about the first meeting about how so many people had excuses to not come to this. Why are you downtown? Why aren't you closer to downtown? Why aren't you closer to this one place? This is 20 minutes away from me, and he's like, somebody had told him that I had driven from Washington.
How many hours was it?
I mean, with traffic, it was probably 2 hours each way, hour and 45, because we weren't that far. So anyways, somebody had told him, so he goes, wait, who came from the furthest? And he knew, so he called me out, and he got confused on the Washington, D.C. So he said D.C., and I'm like, I didn't come that far. Don't give me that much credit. So I don't know that I probably would have found an excuse for that one. But so anyways, long story short, he ends up handing me, he goes, I'm giving you a book because you came. And he handed me Michael Gerber's E-Myth book. Okay, at this point, again, I am just knowing I need to be around people. Have not read any entrepreneur books. I mean, I am not at the place I am now. So I'm like, okay, he hands me the E-Myth, and I'm like, I guess I got to read it. So I go home, start reading it, and it's an amazing book about, working on your business versus working in your business, and how, we just aren't taught these things. I mean, we're healthcare professionals. We don't know how to run a business. So anyways, long story short, I start going to these meetings every week. I might have missed a few just based on, childcare issues, but I pretty much went every week. And then he ended up not doing those anymore. Now he's a much, much bigger, guru in the entrepreneurial field. But the energy in that room of about 100 people, because there were about 100 people, he was well enough known that was a pretty decent launch for him. The energy in that room it didn't compare to anything I had been around, so I'm going from like just passion and fire, and and then I'm like back to work the next day. I mean, it was like there was such a contrast, and I didn't ever feel that contrast because this is all I knew.
Right.
And now I'm like, what is this, and how do I do
I
this?
love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know what this is, but that has to happen in my life. So
Yes.
and this is how it starts, honestly, for all of your listeners and watchers. It's just taking a step. I mean, you aren't going to have all the answers. And I feel like as pharmacists, we feel like we do have to have the answers.
Oh, yeah. You've got to get it right. You've got to do it the first time. No mistakes.
Yeah.
And I have found, and maybe you found, like you'll find that as you're going through this journey, there are tons of people going through this journey too.
Yes.
There's tons of us out there trying to figure it out. So you end up feeling not like a weird egg. You feel like a group.
Yes.
So yeah, no, it's fun.
Yeah. And
And it's empowering, and it's exciting. It's so, like we were talking about, even this podcast to us is so fun. Like, we'll give up everything else before we'll give up this right now. Because it's just, I don't know, it like fills your cup. It lights your fire, whatever you want to say. It's awesome.
And when you find those things,
you
you
can't
do
stop.
them regardless
You
of
can't
pay.
stop.
Yeah. So it really highlights the fact that it's not ever been about money, and because
true.
we're not getting paid to podcast.
No.
I mean, that's not a secret. We're very transparent about that. I mean, Oprah might be because there's ads and stuff, but for the rest of us, we're doing it because it feels our
feels
cup.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Share.
that was the start of my journey, and then life kind of, I was still working my job, obviously, and this is also just to highlight that you don't just get a twinge or a feeling of something, and now I'm going to quit my job and just be rogue. I mean, obviously you've got responsibilities, life. I think there's a sense of being reasonable, and the fact that I still need I need health insurance, and I need an income, and but you just take those small steps in the time that you have, and those small steps will lead you to the next step, and you just have to put yourself out there. So, and that's the whole point of your podcast, right? Is just getting out of the box.
Put yourself in the space. If we keep saying, if you put yourself in that space, amazing things happen.
Yeah.
People come to you, opportunities come to you. If you'll just kind of put yourself in that space.
Yeah, you just have to open up, and nobody's gonna tell
give
you to
yourself
do it.
space.
Nobody's going to give you permit. It's not going to come to you, and you don't need a degree for it. That's the other thing is I was like, okay, well now if I'm going to be a business person, now I need an MBA to tell everybody that I could be a business person. And I did. I was in that mindset because we're trained to be in that mindset. I feel like pharmacists in particular, like that type A, it's ingrained in us. And so I did. I looked up the MBA and I'm like, this doesn't make any, on any level does this make any financial or logical sense right now for me to invest in an MBA? So I'm like, I'm just going to
Figure it out.
start learning. I'm just going to start learning. There's enough resources out there within drivable distance. And now, you could get anything on YouTube, podcasts. This podcast. So, anyway, and long story short, I actually started initially doing some skincare education and that was kind of my dabbling into entrepreneurship. And then fast forward a few years, just so this isn't like a 3-hour episode, we ended up moving back to Florida. So University of Florida called my husband back. We weren't really looking to move back. We were kind of settled in Washington. But we moved back, and that felt like the right thing at the time. My family was in Orlando. His family is actually here in Gainesville, so it made total sense to move back. And so we moved back, and then shortly thereafter, we moved back in July, August, and then in April, the next April, my father was diagnosed with lymphoma. So again, when we moved back, we had no idea anybody, like my family was not sick. His dad actually had a stroke, and so that was part of the reason we moved back. But my side, I thought we were good. So we moved back. My father gets diagnosed with lymphoma completely out of the blue. My mom's calling me from the ER. He was in pain. They told me like too late because they're always, parents are always trying to not stress you.
Yeah.
So, long story short, his spleen had ruptured while he was driving from Fort Myers. He pushed through until he got here. They did immediate surgery, but they're like the scan. So we're going to fix the spleen, but he also has lymphoma. And we're like,
what?
Honestly, my initial reaction was like, you've got the wrong scan. You've got the wrong scan. Like, just look again. That's how in denial I was. Like, that can't be possible. So, and anyways, so it was all true. And so for a year, I was back and forth to Orlando in the ICU room, checking on I was with his primary care physician, like getting the labs before the hospitals came in, like, let's review the labs so I know what to ask, why aren't you checking this? What's going on with this? So all of that for a year.
Wow.
And I fired 2 hospital systems in Orlando, ended up bringing him up here. I'm pretty sure my picture was in all the charts, like, avoid this girl at all costs. Yeah. If you see her in the room, the other direction. Yeah. So, but, and that was a different time in my life too, because there was denial and anger. I was in a place of,
This cannot be happening.
yes.
Yeah.
And so, could I have handled it in a nicer way? Absolutely. And, you're heated. I was heated because I'm like, I felt like I put 100% in everything I did as a pharmacist, and I'm not allowing anybody to put any less than 100% into my family. So anyways, I advocated for my dad for a year and was driving back one day. I remember it like it was yesterday, pouring rain, storm. And all of a sudden I was like, I have to do this for other people. Like, all of the people in all of the other rooms, nobody with them, no family, I remember saying to one of the ICU nurses, what are you doing for these people who have nobody with them? Like, I have just caught 10 errors. What are these people doing? Like, what are they doing? Who is helping them? Right. And I remember saying that to a nurse, and and I think a lot of them just stopped talking back to me because they're like, she doesn't actually want to respond. She's just getting it out. So it's all like, I'm not actually looking for you to respond. You just have to kind of listen to my anger at this point. So anyway, so I had this just compelling urge that, like, I'm supposed to do this for somebody else, and this was a few months before my father, it was before we had even been told we were going to hospice. So, I just knew that at some point, once I was done helping him, that I needed to do this for other people. I don't know how.
There was a need. You just saw a huge need.
Oh, yeah.
And I knew that there were other fathers and mothers and family members who would love to still be around for their family, but don't get the opportunity because XYZ happens and nobody helped them out. So, in any case, I was like, okay, I don't know how to do this. I know how to do it, like, in it. I know how to work in it. So here comes the E-Myth book again, right? Like, I know how to be a practitioner, but I don't know how to go run a advocacy business.
Yes.
Like, there's no manual for that. That's not on page 43, So, okay. I know I need a website, and I know, so I know the basics. So, I called my sister, and she's in tech. So I'm like, okay, you can help me with the website, and I will I'm pretty well connected in the area now. So I'm like, okay, I can start with just word of mouth,
Right.
and get my name out there. And then I found that there is actually a directory, a nationwide directory called Advo Connection. So okay, I signed up for that. You had to like be approved. So now most of what happens is people will Google, if they know to Google healthcare advocate or patient advocate, which again,
you know they exist.
people don't know that this is a thing.
Right.
If they know to, or they think of, I know that I need an advocate, or they just search advocate, whatever, then Advo Connection will be one of the first things that pops up, and then they put in their zip code, and then, so in any case, that's been a source of, people reaching out to me, and then a lot of the local community knowing what I do and knowing my background, and know, like, and trust, right? They've got to, I mean, this is, people aren't just inviting another healthcare professional into their life at a time of frustration, and unless they already, or somebody tells them that you should, like it's a referral, know, like, and trust her, and at least get on a phone call with her. Yes. So I went through a period of, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to make this business happen, because we don't know. And you just be compassionate with yourself that it's okay that you don't know. As pharmacists, we aren't okay that we don't know. Like, we aren't okay with that. So it's hard to just be okay with uncertainty, because we are taught to be certain.
Right.
And, I started thinking back to all the CE programs that I've been in, and what seriously is happening at every single talk is, okay, well, this is really good study, but we need more information.
Right.
Every single talk, right? So really, what level of, we don't have any certainty. I mean, we don't have any certainty, because what seems to be certain right now in this study will prove to be uncertain in the next study. And so I just got to a point of mindset shift. Uncertainty is perfectly okay, and people need our imperfect action. People aren't waiting for us to be perfect. And
I always think of doctors. Like, if doctors hesitated just because they weren't sure, because there might be that one patient, they wouldn't do anything.
Yes.
You wouldn't take care of people.
And people care so much more about how much you care for them than they do about you knowing everything in a textbook. And sometimes I'll tell that to my clients. It's like, okay, let's say they are looking to get a whole new medical team. And I say that, like, what's more important to you as we look for a new team? Do you want the bedside manner who maybe isn't the John Hopkins, skilled physician, or do you want, and that's not my decision to make, because some people might say, no, I want the person who knows everything. I don't care if they don't even look my direction. I don't care. Yeah. And so that's up to the person. But the point is a lot of them will say, like, no, I want to know somebody cares, because if they'll maybe
invested interest when you care. Yeah.
So that's what I do now. So I help my clients navigate the muddy waters of the medical system. Usually they're coming to me. I would like them to come to me sooner, but a lot of times it's not even a thought in your head to find an advocate until it's like, D-Day. So a lot of times they're coming to me like, okay, we are realizing that the medical system is failing us in some way, but we don't know how, because we don't know what we don't know. So we just need some clarity moving forward. So what that looks like can be variable. So it can be an adult child calling me on their elderly parent. It could be a young entrepreneur who is working herself or himself to death because they're trying to run their business, and now medical problems are popping up, and they just don't have time to manage it. They don't have time to get the answers they need, and they need just a little bit of help. It's guidance. Like, any field that we aren't familiar with, even something as small as, and I think I mentioned this to you, is like walking into a car dealership. Like, if I need a mechanic, if I need something fixed on my car, you could tell me anything. I wouldn't have a clue what you're saying. Right. Just go ahead and do it. And in that scenario, the complications or the ramifications of that are not nearly as significant as it being like your life. Yes, so we accept a level of, okay, I don't know about this, and they're just going to do whatever, no problem. But we don't necessarily want to accept that when it's our life or the life of a family member. So just helping people fill in the gaps, and it's in a very collaborative way. So it's not like, enlightened pharmacist against, my husband's a physician, so I'm not anti-physician at all. I completely understand, validate, acknowledge the fact that they are unable to do what they morally want to do and what they came into medicine to do. And so it's a collaboration.
Yeah.
So that's what I do.
So do you...
Yeah, I was thinking, like, so it sounds like you're working one-on-one with these people, and it probably will depend on what they're needing, whether it's like week-long, month-long, and then the time of day varies. So how do you balance that with like your family life, like childcare? And
I try, and there are boundaries that have to be set, because it's like realtors, right? You kind of expect your realtor to be on, like
Available.
I've got a question about a house and it's 9 p.m. I don't care. But, so there's got to be some boundaries. So there have been situations where I have physically been like in a hospital room helping, being there when the team is rounding. But there are other instances where all the person wants and the family wants is that initial like 2-hour consultation of like, let's go from A to Z from where you've been. Let's go through all the medical records you have. Let's see if there are any glaring gaps that haven't been identified, because nobody is able to spend that kind of time with anybody.
Right.
And so so many times something is just blatant that has been missed, not any out of any bad intentions on the team. It's just a resources problem.
Right.
So a lot of times it's just that let's get everything out on the table. Let's identify what your top 3 goals are, because what my goals are for you may not be what your goals are for you. So let's identify what your goals are and get you at least on a better track, so you know how to effectively communicate with your team. You know that using the online portal is going to be more effective than a phone call and a sticky note. Like just the nuances of the system that people just don't know. And that relieves so much frustration and stress, just those little nuances, because it's like you could be on the phone for an hour just simmering in cortisol because of all this stress versus sending a message on a portal and done, And so it's just these little pieces that if we can reduce some of the stress of the patient who's trying to heal and allow their body to heal, and these nuances not become an additional stress that's just going to result in more problems. So it's really just guidance. It's just, and some people want more than that. Like, so, they want me to come to the hospital and they want me to, sometimes go to the physician's appointments with their elderly parent or, and that will typically happen during a work day. So that's okay. But I have had the calls at like, Sunday night at 10 p.m. When somebody just got discharged and now they have a question on their med because it was not clear upon discharge. I do take those calls because nobody else is there. Who are they going to call? The chart's already at medical records. Who are you going to call? The nurses station? They've already switched nurses. Like nobody knows you're gone. And who's going to give you that clarification? They have no idea what they're supposed to do. Well, I've been with them the whole time, so I can answer that like that without even, I don't need to pull a chart because I don't have 300 patients. I've maybe got, 2 or 3 at a time, depending on the month. Sometimes more, but it just depends on the month. So I have the freedom to have the knowledge relatively quickly. So I'll take the phone call. If I know that what's gone on, if it's a legitimate, like I know you've just been discharged from the hospital, you've got a question, I'll take the call.
So do you have forms, like a contract you make with the patient, and do you have a HIPAA form?
Yes.
Okay.
So I do. I have a contract, and really the contract, I see it as more laying out what I don't do than what I do, because I think a lot of times it's really important for them to know that I am not your new physician making all the calls. Right. That's not my scope of practice. That is not, ethically or morally where I stand. I'm here to fill in gaps and clarify what's not clear. So it's more along the lines of like, just so we understand, and I verbalize this too, but it's more along the lines of like, I am not here to supersede or take the place of your physician. I will, if you want options or you want to discuss what's been said, I'll tell you, some of the pros, some of the cons, give you like, hard facts about why. And then I don't make any medical decisions for a patient ever, because that's outside of my scope. So it's more that, what I do, but I think the highlight more is what I don't do. And so they understand that, because people don't, people are in a hospital and there's badges, a resident, a fellow, a physician, an RN, a nurse practitioner. They don't know what all, they don't know what all these people mean, what they all do. They just know that somebody's in my care and that person can make decisions, on a very basic level. So it's important to lay out those expectations. I am not your new physician, nor do I intend to be at any level. I'm, simply a lamppost on your journey.
Just a lamppost.
Yes.
So it's mostly like the medical visits, because I know you are very into like self-care, nutrition, exercise. Do any of those components come in, or they typically come into you a lot later than?
100%. My initial consultation always involves stressors in their life, what you're eating from morning till night, because if I'm dealing with somebody who's got a high level of inflammation, what's going on is tied into their inflammation, and they tell me, I've got a candy bowl at my workplace, and that's important information to me. Or after every meal, I eat, I eat really well. I have vegetables in the crock pot, but then we have ice cream after because I have a sweet tooth. Okay, like that's important information to me, because sugar is a pro-inflammatory. So that's important information to me, but that isn't asked by anybody else. Nobody else is asking that. And it's not that they don't care. Again, this is not like malintention by the team. It's just they don't have the time to go through. They don't have a 2-hour initial consultation. So we go through everything you're eating. I am not a dietitian. I'm not claiming to be a dietitian, but there are just some basic glaring pieces of information that come out that I'm like, okay, these are really easy things for us to change, you know? So yeah, we're going over smoking, we're going over drinking, we're going over food, we're going over stressors. You know, a lot of people, I mean, some of these people are entrepreneurs, and they moved away from the corporate life to have more flexibility, and they are now in a worse place stress-wise than they were when they were in the corporate life because
It wasn't what they expected.
yeah. So a lot of the times it's like, okay, what are your biggest stressors right now, and how much of this is self-imposed, and how much of this can we actually work on, and what are some of the tools that you can do to work on them? So, you know, so yeah, it encompasses all of that.
That is so neat. I'm liking this. Now, who, like, I know you said like your dad inspired you, your life experiences definitely have inspired you, but is there like somebody that you saw doing this, or someone that like triggered this vision that you had?
There isn't, which is crazy. It was one of those things that just dawned on and you probably don't know a lot of patient advocates. Actually, a lot of the times what the patient advocates that people get involved with are employed by the facility they're in. So it's like, oh, well, there is a patient advocate at my assisted living facility. Okay, that's a different story, because now you've got somebody employed and who's got
A bias.
yeah.
maybe.
I mean, they're not going to say, oh, this doctor just made this error that I am employed by. That's not going to happen. So there are patient advocates that I mean, the institution has good intention to have them there, but the reality is you're not going to be able to separate that you know, level of conflict of interest. So no, I did not know any patient advocates, but I will say that during my dad's course, I brought up many times to his PCP, this needs to happen. Like, I think this needs to, this needs to happen. And, and we kind of chatted about it kind of in passing and very casual, like, yeah, you should start it. No, you should start it. And, and then that happened where I was like, I'm starting it. I don't know. I mean, I'm being told to start it, so I'm just going to do it. And if I only help one person, then that's okay. This, I left it very open. And I will say though, from a business standpoint, I went from being very open to the universe to, oh, this is a business, I should start running it. So my type A started showing up. Okay. Yeah. Well, if I'm going to have a business, then I'm going to do it as a business. So I need to do what I need to do as from a business owner standpoint. So, I gave myself some compassion after my dad passed away, and I had my time where I didn't do a whole lot because I was still grieving, and we were always grieving, right? So I gave myself some time that year. So I didn't really like dive into it head first. I mean, I did a few things here and there, but it wasn't a full head dive. Then the next year, I feel like is when the next calendar year, I was like, here comes Pharmacist brain. Well, like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. I can't just let the universe take over. So let me control it all. I've got this. So yeah, here comes the controlling type A. I got to do this. So I joined a mastermind and love my mastermind.
Aww.
The transformations that have happened for me.
Now, what is a mastermind? Because there might be some people out there like me who don't understand what that is fully. Yeah.
It's basically, I was looking for a business coach, right? Because now I'm like, well, I'm type A. I gotta get a coach
for this. Yeah,
Someone's gotta tell me what to do. I'm sure there's a recipe somewhere for this. So I just gotta find the recipe book. So, looking for a business coach, I called a few, I was waiting for the one that felt right. So I looked into a few. I just wasn't feeling really good about it, so I just waited. One came across my Facebook screen from another coach that I had interviewed that I wasn't super excited about, but she referenced somebody else. So okay, I'll click on it. It's like you click. 2 hours later, I've watched
bunny hole.
3 TEDx videos. I don't even know where I'm at. My son's like, it's 10 p.m. Nobody's asleep. So
that's just me.
Yeah, no, it's not. So I'm like, okay, I feel really good about this one. I'm like, I'm in it now, So there was she had a mastermind. So then it was like, do you want a one-on-one business coach, or do you want a mastermind with a group? Okay. Well, I thought the group would be kind of cool.
Right. That's kind of been your theme with the group and the energy.
Yeah. So I felt like we could learn from each other. I felt like that. I actually felt like that would be more beneficial because then I can learn from more minds.
Yes.
So I applied to it. Didn't even know, no idea how much this costs. Like, I don't even know. I don't know if I'm selling my house over this. I don't know anything. Okay. I just know that I feel good about it. Fill out the application, done. Like, I'll let it happen if it's supposed to happen. So I get the call, like, okay, we want to interview. Like, it's a big thing. Like, they want to interview me back, see if I'm the right fit, this whole thing. And so, and I get the call back, and I'm like physiologically responding. Like I'm like, my palms are. I'm talking to the girl. I'm like, my palms are sweating. I don't even know what's happening, but I feel like I'm just supposed to do this. So, because I had interviewed others and I had zero reaction, like zero, nothing.
Wow.
And I think that there's a lot of intuition that we block or don't listen to. So I'm like, okay, my palms are sweating, my heart's racing. I don't know what's happening, but I guess we should just move forward. So she was gonna, come back and tell me, if. She was an agent for the business coach, so she wasn't the business coach. Okay, I'm going to talk to the business coach, tell about what we talked about. Long story short, I joined the mastermind. Okay,
Cool.
A very large investment.
What'd you get?
But let me.
And my husband's probably worried right now. Like, thanks, Claudia.
So I didn't join until I got his okay. But I will say this. Before I got on that call, before I found out how much it was, I sat quietly and I said, I need to have a cutoff. I don't know how much this is going to be, but I need to, in my head, I don't want to make an emotional decision. Sure, 30 grand. I don't need my car. I'll bike.
Everywhere.
So I didn't want to make a ridiculous rash decision. So I, in my head, said, if it's more than this number, I'm not going to do it. In my head, I said that. I get on the phone. She talks me through it. Okay, I'm waiting for the. Okay, drop the bomb. Let's go. What are we doing? Yeah. That's the number she said.
Wow.
Like to the dollar. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I'm
Your
like,
intention. The power, the law of attraction.
Yeah.
You manifested.
I'm like, it cannot be more than $1. I know, right? I'm like, hold on, I got to go back to silence. This is not. But
that's really cool.
It was that dollar. So I was
crazy.
like, like tears, the whole thing. Long story short, amazing mastermind. But my journey in this mastermind, and you can cut me off anytime because I can really talk forever.
We're good. Okay. We're over time a little bit. We're good. This is good stuff.
What happened in the mastermind, the transformation was I go from return of type A pharmacist.
Right.
I will just get into this group. They will tell me the recipe for success, all of the ingredients. It's just going to be amazing. I'm just going to catapult. I'm just going to blow out of the universe with all this amazing information and recipe for success, right? So, so I'm in it, and I don't know what to expect. Again, this is like as out. I don't know.
It's out of the box.
At this
I'm
point,
loving it.
If I don't know about it, that's what I'm drawn to now because I'm like, I don't know. Let's go
find out.
So we're doing this mastermind, and I'm like, I'm waiting for the recipe, right? Like, okay, we have this meeting. That's interesting. Okay, where's my recipe?
What's the next step?
I don't have my recipe book yet. When does that come in the mail? So I'm going through the motions, and here's my emotions over the course of this mastermind. Go from type A, like I'm waiting for the. Okay, this is good information. I like it. I'm taking notes, but I'm still waiting for my answers, right? Yeah, because it was a good dollar amount. So okay, what? Let's go. And my husband's also like, let's go. Like, what are you doing? And so. I go from, I can't even tell you, I cannot put into words how much I've learned in this group, and it is not the recipe. There is no recipe is what I have discovered. Okay. There is no recipe because this is your calling, and you wouldn't have this calling if you weren't supposed to do it.
If they put you in a box and if they defined it.
Yeah.
Right.
No. And they can't define it for me.
No.
Nobody in there is a medical professional. So it's not like, let's just all talk about like the nuances of the clinic from the hot. No, nobody and everybody's from a different background, nobody medical. There's no answer. Wow. And that's honestly okay. So I go from like all excited to like a little frustrated, like, where's my recipe book? And then, oh my God. And then I have this like fear of like, what if my husband thinks this is like all a waste? And because it's not like our husbands aren't going to be like, but I see the transformation. It was worth every dollar.
But you worry about letting other people down.
Yeah.
That's a big holdup for me is letting other people down.
Yeah. So I went through all these emotions, right? Like,
and you not only invested like the money, the time, like you have a child, like I struggle with that. Like, okay, like, yes, you're doing this thing you love, but you're not spending time with Owen. You're not.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like,
are you being selfish? We go through that. Am I being too selfish?
100%. Yeah. Because some of the mastermind calls are at 4. So I pick him up. I'm like, awesome. Go do your homework. I'm shutting the door.
yes.
Yeah. Because I invested, I'm getting on this call because it was a lot of money. So anyways, long story short, what I have learned is that none of these people are going to get their recipe. A lot of them knew that they weren't coming in for the recipe, but I didn't because I'm type A. Like I'm looking for the answers. You tell me what to study on a test. I am studying and I'm getting an A. Like that, I'm very linear. Like that's what I came from. Okay, like it's very linear. I signed up for a business coach. You tell me all the things I need to be like, the next amazing patient advocate on Oprah, and that's it. Like you tell me that and I do it. And like that's all. I'm very coachable. Right. You just tell me what to do and I'll do it. but they can't tell you what to do.
It's almost like they're like holding space for you.
That's all it is.
Creating
Yeah.
this space of like.
Do they give you tools? Is it kind of like you get tools that you can figure out if you can use them towards whatever you're trying to achieve?
100%. So there are mentors that come on. We've had some amazing mentors, Pat Flynn, Jasmine Starr, lots of great people. Mentors come on. We also have like what's called office hours, which is when the business coach, we say what our question, what our questions for that week. And a lot of times I was like, but I don't know what my question is. Like, I don't know what to ask. You're supposed to just tell me all the answers. So that has been the biggest transformation is like, you aren't going to get the answers. You're going to get the answers internally. So you get into your stillness. And a lot of times I jumped on there and I'm like, I don't have a question. I don't know what to ask. And I'm just going to get on here and learn from everybody else. And then some weeks I'm like, I have a very clear question and I'm just compassionate with myself and wherever I am at that week. But so then I go through, we talked about Michael Singer's books. Through this process, a group of us in this mastermind knew about Michael Singer.
Okay.
So we start with this surrender, right? So now I'm like, type A returns, don't know what to do, getting a little frustrated. And then now we're reading The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer, okay? Which is like the antithesis. So
that's speaking to you.
This is like the antithesis to type A Claudia, okay?
right.
And the whole story of his surrendering to the universe. And so now I'm at a place, and we're about 2 months out from the mastermind being done, that now the mastermind women are like, you are like the biggest transformation in the world. Like you just went from, type A linear pharmacist to now you're like
the universe.
You're like you've just surrendered everything. And I honestly have. I'm not stressed about my return on investment. I'm not stressed about any of it because what I understand now is that I would not have had that compelling urge on the drive back to Gainesville that day if that was not what I was supposed to do and what the universe wanted me to do.
And I as I hear your story, it's like you felt a nudge. And I think many of us out here, I know I personally can say, there are times where I felt a nudge. And you can ignore the nudge and keep doing what you're doing. Or you can like listen to the nudges. Yeah. Because the nudges, I think, are your inner spirit or your essence speaking to your purpose. And if you listen, you can feel those nudges. And that, to me, when I hear your story about you went to that meeting, you had no idea, you just threw yourself out there, that was a nudge you listened to. And then you joined this mastermind. That was just kind of another crazy nudge. So you've got to listen to your nudges. Your nudges can take you amazing places. And the second thing I'll say is I've said it to you, I think. I know I've said it to other people when I speak about you. You can tell whatever has happened, everything about you has just taken a notch up. Like, it's crazy how I've seen you go, like your website is just awesome now. You're doing all these other marketing things. You do a lot of social media stuff now. So whatever you're doing, it is like showing, it's like sparkling. It's so obvious that you have like gone.
That's super sweet. Yes. And I chalk it all up to the surrender part. I really do. Just letting it be. And if I meditating on it, being still, I read a lot of books because it's let me just say, you're not going to just be like, okay, I'm a type A pharmacist. I am going to be enlightened. Here I am. It's a muscle. I mean, it's a muscle. It's just like going to the gym. If you've never been to the gym, you're not going to see results tomorrow. If you've never eaten a vegetable, you're not going to be healthy after one leaf of lettuce. This is a muscle you have to practice on. And so I have worked this muscle. I still have a lot of work to do because that type A, the decades of type A don't just fizzle out. Away. That's ingrained. That's some serious stuff. So you work on it, okay? But the surrender feels so good that you're like, why would I go to the forcing, resistance, want to create something and when you're trying to create something that isn't intended to be, you are blocking everything that's supposed to happen. So let's say you're at a restaurant and you are like madly rewriting your goals because if I just write them one more time, they will all come to be. Meanwhile, whoever's at the next table could have been somebody you were supposed to meet on your journey and you didn't,
paying attention
because you're rewriting all the goals that you have imposed on your journey.
Right.
And
and it's your flow. Like a lot of people talk about that, your flow. Like, and when you get in your flow, it feels so good and it feels so right, like you said. And you don't want to go back. Like, we creep back, but we were talking about that too. Like, I don't want to go back. Like, I love being in the flow is what I call it.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally, it'll creep up. Like, you're going to have a little creep, like,
well,
that's type A.
Like,
yep. Yeah.
What am I doing? Am I crazy?
Because we have been taught to control, right? Like, we control our pharmacies. We control, we just control. So releasing control is not that's not like a natural thing. No. I mean, it's what we are supposed to do. It feels good when we do it, but it's really hard.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest piece of advice. That's my journey. And everybody's gonna go, you can't jump steps. You can't jump steps. It's your journey, and the way it's gonna roll out is the way it's gonna roll out.
And I like that you're very accepting. Like, there's different parts of this process or the journey, and it's like, yeah, I might be into this type A right now, but then I'm learning how to exercise this other muscle. So it's kind of like you're saying, a process, acceptance, love.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I thought of one last question here, but like, do you tie spirituality or any of that aspect into your patient's care or evaluate that?
Yeah. So I will start with the questioning at the beginning, like, where are we at?
Okay.
Some people, some people are just very like staunchly religious, as opposed to more generalized spiritual. And so part of all of that, whatever that is for them, needs to be incorporated into their life. And so if they are, let's say they're a realtor and they, they have a new scary diagnosis, and but church is really important to them, but they haven't had the time to go to church because Sunday is an open house day or whatever, like, I explain to them I cannot emphasize how important mindset and spirituality is. And for some people it's strict religion. For some people it's not tied to any religion. It's just more strictly spiritual. But whatever that practice is for them, it needs to become a priority, especially at times of healing. I just listened to a holistic oncologist do an interview, and he said, I have never in my 30 plus years of treating patients seen anybody with stage 3 or 4 cancer, no matter what treatment they did, heal without paying attention to mind and spirit. Like,
wow.
And he's, that's 3 decades, almost 4 decades. So,
wow.
But he has seen those stages when people have paid attention to that. So it plays such an important role. And again, nobody, there might be a chapel at your hospital, but that's not, nobody's coming in to do like chair yoga with you. Some of the stuff is getting incorporated in some places. There's arts and medicine. There are pieces of it, but you have to, number one, know it's there.
Right.
It's not just popping in your room. You have to know to ask for it. The doctor has to know to order for it. There's just so many pieces, and it
gets lost.
It just gets lost. Yeah.
So important.
Very cool. I have loved this conversation. You have to come
so
back.
excited.
This is so fun.
Yeah, this is awesome.
My goodness.
Yeah, and this just to me epitomizes the fact that you're just like a role model out of the box.
Yes.
So thank you so much for sharing your story. And but this is just a journey is a journey. It's not even over yet. So isn't it exciting to just even like think about where you're going to go?
Yes.
So
how many boxes you're going outside of.
Yes.
I love it.
Just keep rocking that boat, no matter how much water is flying in. Yeah.
So thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Where
you're
can
wonderful.
people like find you, or the best way to reach out to you if
Yes.
they're interested in your work?
Yeah, so social media wise, Instagram, it's Wellness with Claudia, so at Wellness with Claudia. And then my website is peaceadvocacygroup.com. So
Yeah. And we'll try to put that underneath so everybody has that information as well.
Yes.
So, but thank you so much.
Of course.
Come back sometime.
Yeah, would love to. Yes. And again, we do this all for you. This is, we enjoy our conversations, but if one person can get a spark, then awesome.
Yes. I'm Bryn.
I'm Heather. Thanks so much for
Claudia.
joining. Pharmacists Out of the Box. See you next time.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.